Hello, hi, welcome. I'm Symbiosis, and I've fallen down a rabbit hole. I got into Kamen Rider about half a year ago, and during the slim bit of free time I didn't have it hooked to my veins, I started to think about Gaim, because I like Gaim. A lot. And now it's your problem. Why? Because I have absolutely zero friends.
Why are we still here?
That want to talk about Kamen Rider.
Just to suffer?
You may be asking yourself some questions, and I promise you, dear, sweet, handsome viewer, that I will answer some of them, or die trying. Now then, you. Shin Megami Tensei, or SMT for short, is a monster taming JRPG, like Pokemon, except, doing it a decade prior. Don't worry, there'll be a running trend for the series. It has all the standard JRPG tropes, such as befriending eccentric weirdos you just met, check, using the power of friendship to kill God, you bet, bribing, coercing, and later forcefully merging various monsters together to create literal gods and demons that you command like slaves to fight each other and take revenge on your old friends as they abandon you to follow divine entities that throw the whole world into an apocalyptic hellscape all for the sake of their own egos? All wrapped up in a fun little adventure. Now some of you may be wondering, what does this have to do with the Karate Bugman Exploding Monster Show? Well, just you wait, as I will not try to convince you that the season about breakdancing fruit shogun shares more in common than you think. Firstly, the plot of Gaim, and yes, there will be spoilers, you've been warned. Gaim follows the story of one Kota Kazuraba as he ventures into the adult world by working low-end jobs while trying to maintain his friendships with his old dance group, who do knock-off Pokemon battles with rival groups for dance turf. All for about 13 episodes until the plot takes a sharp turn off a cliff and becomes about a three factions arms race for a biblical MacGuffin to become a god. All for the sake of humanity and its impending extinction. Oh, and for about an episode in a movie they play football because hey, if it works for Mario, why not here, am I right? With the basics laid out, it's time to get into the real meat of this video, and for starters, let's look at the three factions I mentioned earlier. These factions, which I'll dub Michi, Kota, and Kaito, all have the same goal of obtaining the forbidden fruit, however for very different reasons. You see, to make a long story short, humanity is going extinct because an invasive weed is creeping in from tears in reality, bringing not only an army of monsters called Inves, but the ability to turn people into said Inves via its fruit. Michi ends up allying himself with the head Inves known as Overlords, to save those he cares about, leaving the rest of humanity to die. Kaito finds humanity weak and concludes that the strong should be the only ones to survive, and Kota wants to save everybody, including the Inves, as they're technically sentient beings and were also a once thriving civilization before it collapsed. Now to anyone who's played an SMT game, this may sound familiar as it follows the same story beats as the Law, Neutral, and Chaos routes. Kaito probably being the most apparent, as survival of the fittest is the running theme of the Chaos route. Plus I'm pretty sure it's an unwritten rule that the Chaos representative must turn into a monster at some point in the story, which pairs nicely with the fact that Kaito turns himself into an overlord in order to rule as the strongest. Michi on the other hand, is not as straightforward. Typically for a law route, the character strives to maintain order by any means, whether that be the subjugation of humanity like in Strange Journey, deliberately withholding power to maintain rulership like in SMT5, or even exterminating most of humanity willing or otherwise, like in... pick one. In fact, I'd argue that both the Yggdrasil Corporation and the Overlords share aspects of the law alignment, as both wish to maintain their own status quo. It's just, one goes about it by protecting as many people as possible, a la the Messians, while the other goes about it in a more otherworldly fueled genocide, a la anything that involves this peppy ball of smiling jaundice. Coincidentally, both teams Michi joins after finding out the truth and betraying Kota. Put a pin in that, we're going to come back to it. Kota is probably going to be the hardest to convince you, but hold on, let me cook. Throughout an SMT game, you're given the option to side with either Law or Chaos. However, if the player wishes to make things more difficult for themselves, they can reject both sides and take a neutral route. This route is more story dependent than the other two, but in essence, it's the rejection of both ideals for a more nuanced outcome, with hopefully less genocide. Throughout Gaim, Kota is told to either A. join the Yggdrasil Corporation in stopping the invasion by killing the Inves, saving a fraction of the global population in the process, or to B. take the power of the forbidden fruit and destroy the old world, creating a new one and ruling it as its god. However, at every step of the way, Kota has strived to save everyone, Inves included. Hell, he even sacrifices himself in a one-on-one fight with Michi. Put a pin in that too. Even after turning himself into an overlord, killing all the other overlords, and obtaining the forbidden fruit, he uses his newfound power to instead search for and cultivate a barren world, sacrificing his relationships on Earth for the greater good. The greater good. And only ever returning to aid in defeating major threats. Kinda like the ending of Strange Journey, but with more Nahobino. Still not convinced? Then how about I talk about Messiahs in SMT? No, not them. Not that either.
What kind of a sick school is this? Okay.
Despite being a game around myths and religion, there are no messiahs. At least, not in the traditional sense. It's stated by certain NPCs that the protagonist of each game is a messiah, which carries a much different connotation in this series because nothing can ever be simple to explain. For the sake of this point, all you gotta know is that Messiah actually links Kota to the protagonist of SMT. How, you may ask? Well, it's simple. Kota's story. For anyone that doesn't know about Kamen Rider Gaim, what I'm about to say may sound completely insane, so I'm giving you a minute to brace yourself. Maybe you want to take this time to give the video a like, dislike perhaps, maybe give me a subscribe, leave a comment. You prepped now? Okay, let's continue. Share similarities with the story of Jesus Christ. I know it sounds completely batshit, however there is a reason the fandom refers to him endearingly as Fruit Jesus. He's betrayed by a close companion who is responsible for his death, uses his dying breath to forgive his wrongdoings, is brought back to life a little while later, ascends to godhood, and even performs a miracle by helping Michi's brother wake from his coma. So, in my humble opinion, Kamen Rider Gaim and SMT share quite a bit in common in terms of story and themes, being that when faced with the whole world ending, you can choose to forge a better path, instead of falling back on old broken systems or culling the weak, no matter how challenging it is or how many people tell you otherwise. I appreciate you all for watching and, yeah, thanks for hanging out.